This week, we're discussing the CMA's insane decision to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is no longer the only married man on this podcast. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Ooh, that was a good one. Congrats. Congrats on getting married on Earth Day. You're going to be probably the only people in my lives other than my brother and my parents whose anniversary I'll remember.
Why do you, as a man, remember the anniversary of your parents and your brother?
Because my wife knows them.
Oh. I am so bad with birthdays and like anniversaries and stuff like that it is funny and bullshit that my birthday is Christmas Eve, and so everybody just naturally remembers that because it's so easy. And now, not that like most people are like Earth Day, but like if you look at a calendar, it's normally on there. And now people are gonna be like, oh yeah, that's right, Spencer and Shelby got married on Earth Day.
In your defense, I messed up your birthday this year.
What?
I think it was you. See, this is the issue. So your birthday is the 24th, and I have another friend whose birthday is Christmas Day.
Uh-huh.
And this year I flip-flopped it, and I'm pretty sure on Christmas Day I texted you happy birthday, and I texted my friend whose birthday it actually was happy belated birthday. And it was a whole thing. But I'm glad you don't remember.
Yeah, wow. Honestly, I prefer it if you just didn't text me on my birthday.
Okay.
Like, I'd prefer it if you lost my fucking number. Boom. Roasted. Yeah, alright. Anyway. Tell me about your weekend
married man
games.
as such.
Yeah, tell me about your married life and how you played Mario Kart.
Well, didn't play Mario Kart.
I thought I had you nailed.
Almost. I was out of town this past weekend, basically since we last recorded, so my playlist is rather nil. I did play one wild card in Ring Fit Adventure for the Switch.
Oh.
Yeah. Trying to, since my wife has to get up early for work now, I've been trying to get up at the same time and play that game. And I don't know if it's like a testament to the game or just an embarrassment on my part, but I had to stop.
Mm-hmm. I
only played for like 13 minutes today. I had to stop 3/4 of the way through because I felt like I was going to vomit. It's no joke.
Yeah, no, I 100% hear you, and no, like, yeah, it isn't. It is not a joke. You're 100% right.
Which is just amazing because like that's the main reason that I struggle to like stick to a workout routine because like I don't unfortunately really like have the intrinsic value of, oh, I'm going to feel good if I work out.
Right.
I just feel like shit for however long I'm working out, and like afterwards, like I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I worked out, but it wasn't worth what I went through.
Right.
And it being kind of gamified and like there being a distinct goal really helps me out. And kind of provides a little bit of distraction. So it's a good utility for me, and I've just kind of like picked it up every now and then. I hadn't stuck to a routine, so kind of hoping to get that here.
Yeah, I had started doing it like a couple months ago. I did my first like session of it, and I even like set that it like you can like set an alarm function.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like set that up and then proceeded to, for the next 3 weeks, turn the alarm off and then go back to playing whatever it is that I was already awake and playing, rather than just like doing a quick workout. And then just packed it up yesterday because we're getting ready to move. But I'm gonna try.
Again.
I'm gonna try and tell myself that once we move and I have like, well, because it's hard because we are on the top floor, so it's like I can't really run in place,
right,
and do that whole thing. And so yeah, so I'm telling myself that's why. But we'll see. But yeah, you're right. It is no joke. I remember Shelby and I, when we first got it, we were like, ha ha ha, it's a video game. Let's put it on really hard. And then we were like doing just the warm up and we were like, fuck.
Mm-hmm. I remember like a couple of months ago I picked it up and I did one quick little workout before bed, and the next morning I could not walk. Like my legs were just like complete jelly.
Yeah. Yes. So it's just so ridiculous, and like it sounds so stupid, but it's remarkable. It's remarkable.
So I'll save everyone the weight loss journey pictures and seeing all my stretch marks on Twitter. But yeah, maybe I'll keep up to date on the podcast and say, yeah, I played this today, and everyone can clap for me. And then more realistically, this will be the last time you'll hear about this for another couple months.
That's a great goal. I love that goal. Either one, whichever one works out best.
Yeah, I was going to say not playing it for a couple months.
But I love the idea of you giving the weekly update of like, you know what? I did play it, so we're still doing good. But I also love the idea of just never hearing about it and then being like, hey, remember about 4 months ago?
Right. There's content either way.
Yeah. So, well, cool.
Yeah.
I was in a similar vein of busy this weekend. However, I actually have a ridiculous list of games that I played. So strap in. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm strapped in and strapped on. Tell me about it.
Excellent. So there's this game called Virginia. All right. It's a single-player first-person thriller set in a small town with a secret. And apparently, there was like some sort of like FBI investigation that happened. Like I think it was like a true story. Anyway, super artsy game. No talking in it. It was just all like music and like expressions, basically. Very short game as well. It's a game that's leaving PlayStation Plus. That's why if you're sitting there going, why was Spencer playing this random ass game? Now you know. Played it, platinumed it. Very fun. Really enjoyed it. It was very simple, obviously, and like straightforward. So maybe fun isn't like necessarily the right word, but it was very interesting, right? And like I did get joy out of playing it.
Very nice.
Yeah. So if it's like on Game Pass or anything like that, it's worth the like 4 hours or something that it would take you to like get through it.
So it's called Virginia?
Yeah, it's just called Virginia. 4 hours is also the time to platinum because you have to technically play through the game twice. Why? I don't know. Didn't have to do anything different other than like spend time combing through and like actually picking everything up for one of the playthroughs, and then the other one I could just run through basically. But
gotcha. It is not on Game Pass as of recording.
Well, hopefully one day.
Drop one over PlayStation. Dub after dub for them today.
Yep. Another game that's leaving that I picked up because it said it was an easy platinum, and this is now forever on my trophy list. Tour de France 2021.
Did you blood dope while you played?
What's that?
Did you blood dope?
Yes, yeah. I'll send you pictures of what I look like. I look totally different from. I look like a cyclist now.
Excellent. You have a Livestrong bracelet? Yes,
of course. That game, horseshit. Terrible. I had no fun whatsoever. However, It was a very effective time killer, like while I was working. And it's just like, oh, I'm kind of like working on stuff, but I can kind of just like throw, like, I have a few minutes. Let me just like, because it was all a matter of just like manipulating settings basically that took forever. And then like, it was just all simulating then from there on. And like just trophies popping. And I was just like, all right, this is ridiculous. I have no shame though. And, you know, just as I have a few minutes here and there, put a little time into it. Terrible game though. Do not recommend. On a fun level, unless of course you're into cycling, which is like 0% of the population, I think.
I like riding bikes.
Right, but that's different.
Is it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Trust me.
Are you sure about
I'm
that?
positive, dude. And I don't even know
Sure
how to
about
ride a
that?
bike. Okay, last three randoms. Started playing a game called Graveyard Keeper, also leaving. It's like a management style game.
Nice.
Stardew Valley graphics. I only played about like the first. I put like maybe 30 minutes into it, and then I was just like, okay, I don't have the brain capacity to like put all my time and like attention to this right now, so I just need to put it down. Because like you know how those games are, like any farming sim, like if you don't learn all the basics and like really commit to them and like work on them, it's a fucking nightmare to try and figure shit out. Uh, so I moved on for that, but I know I'm gonna love that because I'm a slut for a good management game.
So do you just like own a graveyard and you're managing said graveyard?
Yeah, yep.
Is it
That's
Plants vs Zombies?
no,
Could it be?
no, no. Wait, uh, I'm gonna stick with no, but I guess technically I don't know. Um, but yeah, it just seems like a game where you have to like manage relationships with like the townfolk, and then every day a body's dropped off.
With the same people you were managing relationships with?
Potentially. Um, but yeah, and then I started playing Kona.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I've seen that
yeah,
on every platform that offers it for free.
yes, and that game is also like super interesting and fun. It's kind of a walking simulator. Uh, you know, like there's not like a ton of like true gameplay to it, but you know, it's like mystery and like you gotta find clues and you gotta, you know, go from location to location. Every once in a while, you do have a wolf try to fight you, and so you have to beat the shit out of it. But other than that, it's basically just like I'm cold, I need to fight in a fire pit. The game, but it is fun, and I'm like chipping away at that. And then I'm playing a game called Dreamfall Chapters, which is effectively a Telltale game. And overall the story's interesting, but it's a little slow and not like you know Telltale just is like such a uh what's the word like that's such a bar to like aspire to be because they do it so well. And it's just not there. But story's overall decent, and again, it's leaving, so got to get a platinum. And that is pretty much it. Obviously played some MLB The Show, and then yesterday, Shelby and I started a game called Nobody Saves the World that friend of the show, London, recommended. Thought it was going to be a roguelike. I didn't really like look a ton into the game, but it just seemed like a game where like you end up with like different forms and like that happens in like binding. And so I was just like, oh, like each run you're just something different. And that's like totally not the case at all. Like, so you start out as a character and then like as you do something, your character form levels up, right? And so like once you hit like a certain level, like it's all letter grade. So you start out as an F, and then you go to D, and then you go to C, B, A, right? And then so on. So you like unlock a character then, like if I went from D to C, it unlocks like another form. And so then like it like the form was like a rat. And then like you have like tasks that you need to do as a rat that levels up the rat to like a B. And then that unlocks or to a C or whatever. And then that unlocks like another form. And then if you get rat to like the next level up, it unlocks a separate form that like goes up its own like web. And it's just like literally just like a dungeon crawl basically, where you're just constantly trying to like do these like little like character missions. It's really neat, and it just like is the perfect like scratch that itch of like you just constantly feel like you're working towards something
Mhm.
outside of just like carrying out the main story. And oh man, it is so satisfying. And like we booted it up and realized that it's like local 2 player, like co-op. And so I was like, no shit. And so yeah, we were playing it, and we were having a blast with it. It's very fun.
Is that so? I think it was maybe on Stadia. There was a game that they gave out for free that was called Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Was
Hang
that
on.
this? Can you look it up for me and see if it was the same developer?
Hulu saves
And if it's not,
Christmas.
can you just say yes?
Uh, Sorry, I'm still just. It's honestly like it's not really like showing up as good as you'd
Maybe it
think
was
it
all
would.
dream, just like
No.
Stadia
There
was.
is a game, but like it's not really giving me like a good like wiki like quick like blurb on it. Yep. Yeah. Nope. That's the same. But now you need to decide if it actually is or not.
I was gonna say.
It is not. It's not the same people.
Okay.
Hate to do that
All
to
right.
you, but
No, that's fine. That was just my non sequitur. Non sequitur out of that because I had nothing else to say.
love it. Well, let's talk about something that I'm sure you have plenty to say about now that I'm done telling you about the 9 worthless games I was playing. So we woke up today, April 26th, the day before this episode releases, provided I don't, uh, do something stupid with the whole upload system. But we found out that the CMA plans to block the Activision Blizzard to Xbox merger, which was kind of crazy because it was like 2 weeks ago now at this point, probably, that all signs were pointing to like this is going to be good to go. So it really felt kind of out of left field. I mean, we've known from the jump that like there was potential for this to happen, but just from like a recency point of view, like everything seemed to be like we moved past like that, and we're getting more into like the surefire territory of like this should go through.
Yeah, and we even had like people in the industry. So I sent you this article about a week ago that Microsoft is doing a showcase at 10 Downing Street today, and it was the same day that this decision was meant to be made. So everyone was like, okay, like, what are the chances that Microsoft's going to participate in that if they get shut down? And there's probably some goodwill between, the British authorities that are making these decisions, and et cetera. And then, yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick this morning. I mean, Eastern time, obviously, it was probably in the afternoon. It would have been like 1 o'clock or something. That they said that the CMA was shutting it down, and both Microsoft and Activision made statements right away saying they were planning to appeal it.
Mm-hmm.
And the basis, I mean, the main one that I saw was that the CMA said that this poses a significant risk to cloud gaming. And for those of you keeping track at home, Microsoft has signed deals with NVIDIA, which is probably their biggest competition in the cloud space right now, to bring Call of Duty games for 10 years to their platform. And a bunch of other smaller platforms too. One of them being Boosteroid, which is, I've never used it personally.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that it wasn't like fake until just recently. But apparently, a big cloud gaming platform in Europe came out almost right away and said that they were going to support Microsoft and Activision's decision to appeal. It's just really interesting decision, and just goes to show how little these authorities, and I'm not talking just the CMA, but how little so many of these authorities understand about technology.
Yeah.
Particularly in the UK and the United States.
It just like, yeah, that's constantly right. Like, again, we bring it up constantly where it's like GTA is why people are stealing cars in Chicago, right? And it's just like people just don't get video games. People don't understand. Like they just don't really like get like what's going on, I feel like. And so they hear like one rumbling of this or that, and they like then get so set on like, we have to stop this. So maybe it's like they have some sort of like reservations for Microsoft in general, right? That they just don't want to ever see Microsoft grow in any capacity. So if they have a easy like public facing way of like stopping something, if that's how they feel, then like they're gonna do it. Because I just don't understand how gaining multiple game franchises makes you stronger at cloud gaming. I don't get that. Show me, like, I can understand you saying that Microsoft is the clear favorite in cloud gaming in terms of like the stranglehold on that market.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how this has any relation to that. Outside of them just doing something, right? And then being under both umbrellas, right?
Yeah. And that's still just such an awful argument, because like, you want to talk about the power that big business has, and people see Microsoft as this big giant like conglomerate, and Sony is this tiny little baby. Like, Sony has been trying to do cloud gaming for many years. They bought, I think, at least 2 cloud gaming platforms in the past 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at Google, who is the largest cloud provider in the world, and they failed at this.
Right.
So why is Microsoft getting punished for making the right decisions and committing to the platform?
Right. Right. Hey, you're doing too good right now. Slow it down.
It's, yeah, I mean, what is good? Failing?
Yes, clearly.
It must be. But
well, no. No, you can't allow your competition to fail.
Here's what I think they want. They want people like me to start my own cloud gaming platform.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay. Yeah, because it's an easy, cheap investment. I'll just get one server rack. I'll host it off of my barely gig speed internet,
mm-hmm.
And I'll have tens of thousands of people pinging in and out all day. Easy. I just don't get who they expect to compete here, because it's not small businesses, and even if it is, who do you think they're hosting their platforms with? They're not building their own servers.
Right.
They're contracting to Microsoft or Google or Amazon.
And again, how does this have any relation to that?
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's just like it just doesn't make any sense. The excuse is just so bad that I can't even like I just can't like wrap my head around anybody who buys that and is like, yeah, this is acceptable. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we all know this is all about Call of Duty. As much as Microsoft is trying to push it off, that it's not like we know. And nobody who's getting pissy about like Microsoft owning Call of Duty is ever going to play Call of Duty on the cloud because they're going to be too pissy about ping and such. Like
Right.
it's such a non-starter. And yet it completely overturned one of the biggest acquisitions of all time.
Right.
Of a company who, if we're paying attention to the timeline here, was probably going to go under anyway.
Right.
Because they have an abusive CEO who had no intention of leaving unless they were acquired.
Right. And I try to understand, right? Like, my mind always immediately goes to like, what would be the issue if, because to your point, Activision Blizzard was going to probably go under. And so they were probably going to end up needing to get bought out or something. So what would be the excuse to not allow Sony to do it?
Honestly, if Sony had the money to put forward and they wanted to do it right now, I don't think it would get blocked.
Right. I don't think it would either. And then the question just is why? Because Sony is quite clearly, on a statistics basis, the stronger of the two.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Quite possibly the worst, like, weakest attempt of like making an argument for why something shouldn't happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just so uninitiated.
Jason Schreier literally said, or Mason Sherbert, whatever you want to call him. He said, food for thought. The UK says it's blocking the Microsoft Activision deal because of Microsoft's advantages in cloud gaming, which are stronger because Google Stadia failed. In other words, the deal is now in jeopardy because of Phil Harrison. I just thought that was really funny. But also like sad. Like it doesn't, again, it just, that entire sentence like just makes no sense because again, it's like what we're saying, like they're only better in the industry or in the cloud gaming sphere because others have failed, which isn't their fault. Like they haven't actively like done things to, it's not like people are doing console wars over whether or not to play on xCloud or Stadia.
Right.
So and it's not like it was even butting heads. It was everybody was just trying to find a way to like make it happen or whatever, right? And there wasn't really any sort of like like fight or anything for users necessarily.
I feel like the only time there was when Stadia shut down and Luna and Nvidia were giving away like basically free 3-month trials so you could figure out what platform, if any, you wanted to move to.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like I literally just keep sitting here thinking about how like the excuse is cloud gaming, and I just don't understand how this is good for cloud gaming. Like I don't see it. I don't see how somebody who's like an avid Google Stadia or Amazon Luna or whatever person who's just like, oh yeah, this is a game changer. Microsoft now has Call of Duty. Like what? But with all that, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, like you said, are going to look to fight this. I don't even I don't know what that means, right? Like I don't understand. Like this is just so like depressing isn't really the right word, but like it's so like defeating, right? Because it's just like how the hell are you going to change their minds and actually get this to go through? Like, if they've managed to say no once, like, and you've had all these like great arguments as to why it should go through, unless they literally just focus in on the argument being around cloud gaming and being like, how the fuck does that make any sense whatsoever, John? And then it like, then fucking whoever it is like, oh yeah, I guess that doesn't make sense.
I mean, I think that's what you have to do because it'll be a different court, right? And you, I think, if you're Microsoft, you have to go out and you have to get NVIDIA to make a statement.
Yeah.
You have to get Boostroid to make a statement. I don't know if they did a deal with Luna, with Amazon, but I imagine being a big name like Amazon, it would probably help their case a lot if they could make a statement in support of the acquisition. But who knows how long that's going to take? I mean, it's funny because you kind of like touched on how it kind of makes you feel defeated, and that was like the initial reaction I saw from most industry pundits once this news came through.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, oh my god, it's not even worth it anymore. Which I think is kind of what Sony's aiming for here. Like, they know they're not going to win specific battles, but if they can keep this going on for as long as possible, then it's the investment isn't simply just buying this company anymore. It's spending all the money on legal fees and such too.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you just say, okay, we're going to cut our losses and go buy Ubisoft and Square Enix?
Which will also just subsequently get blocked.
Right, because you can't tell me that the CMA is going to understand that Activision is way bigger than Ubisoft.
Right. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I doubt it. I think the other thing too, like, and I don't think people get this. The reason I so desperately wanted this to just go through is so selfish, right? I really, frankly, don't care all that much. I don't see why it shouldn't go through, is kind of my main thing. But my main hangups with it are so selfish, and it's that I want the video game news cycle to return to normal. I want shit to be announced and not have stuff that needs to stay behind closed doors because we're too afraid to show that we have value.
Right.
It is so exhausting, this song and dance that we've had to do. And the fact that this is all that we've talked about for over a year now, and it's going to be the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, if we just don't stop and fucking move on, because there's no reason not to.
It's going to be way more detrimental to the industry than this going through would be.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
And again, I'm saying it from a wholly like selfish standpoint of like, because I don't care enough about any of the games involved, so it doesn't impact me on a console I play on level, or any of that. Not that really, frankly, matters at the end of the day. Like, you can be upset about it, but you can't sit there and be upset about it and say, because you're upset and your feelings are hurt, that it shouldn't go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't like mess with like the facts of the situation. Yeah, I just want shit to be able to return to normal.
Yeah, because you and I really don't give a shit about this. Like, neither of us are really Activision fans.
If anything, I should care and be more upset about Bethesda.
Yeah.
Because I play more of those games. Oh no, I have less games to put on my backlog. Whatever will happen? There's just no reason to like care about any of this, and there's just no reason to care even if you play some of the games. And again, the main hang-up is Call of Duty, and if you play Call of Duty, guess what? It doesn't matter what console you play on, it's going to come back to that console because that's what they said they're going to fucking do.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get to keep playing Call of Duty. You'll get to keep playing this franchise that just won't fucking die. It's like GameStop. Like, please, for the love of God, can we pull the plug on it? Assassin's Creed right up there with it. And I still play all those games because I'm a fucking idiot too. Ugh. It's just like, it's annoying, right? Like, you have to wonder. It really felt like this was all going to be perfect timing, right? It felt like this was all going to be perfect timing for this to go through, and then everybody could start going like, okay, now that that's over, here's all the shit that we were going to do. And now I'm sitting here wondering, is Sony going to, because that's the thing I care about, right? I care about PlayStation and like what games are going to be coming. Are they going to be like, half-assing some fucking state of play or whatever they call a showcase where they're going to like refuse to like show any like deals that they have, like new first party games that they're trying to make, stuff like that, all because of like trying to like show that like we're not as valuable as you think we are.
I almost feel like we might be able to move on from that because that's not the argument anymore, right?
Okay,
Like
yeah.
that's been decided, and the main factor now is just competition to cloud gaming. So Sony, as far as I'm concerned, can bow out.
Sony's gonna announce in 3 weeks. They're gonna announce their new cloud gaming service, and then they're gonna be like, "We would be so hurt if Call of Duty goes to Xbox. It would be such an unfair advantage to our whittle little cloud system service thingy." Mm-hmm. That's what's gonna happen. And they're gonna go, "We're so small. You can't hurt us. We're indie. We're an indie developer." God, I hate it. You're probably right. I'm probably like reading a little too much into it, but it is also at the end of the day just like a distraction from other stuff that we could be talking about, stuff that's like frankly just more important and more interesting. And again, it's like the only thing that dominates the news cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, every now and then, I really can't blame them as much as I have in the past couple of weeks, but like news outlets are grasping at straws now.
Yeah.
They're catching like a tiny, tiny, tiny whiff of something and just running with it like it's the truth.
Yeah.
Which is also
just nothing else.
Yeah. But completely understand why they're doing it.
Dude, we talked about a fucking new Vita. What? That happened. That was a thing. Yeah. We did that. We were the problem.
We weren't the problem. We just perpetuated it.
No, we just saw the problem and then talked about that problem. All right. Anything else on the CMA? What's your final like thoughts on things? Like, do you still feel like this will go through, or are you at a point where you're just like, I don't fucking know anymore?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't. Like,
yeah.
Microsoft and Activision say they're going to appeal it. But I guess it's just going to depend. Like, what's the reaction from the SEC now? And I don't know, dude. I kind of just want this to be done and Microsoft to cut their losses and say, you know what? Maybe we can invest this money into something else.
Yeah, like we tried. Like, whatever.
Like, what does this... I feel like you're also going to get to a point, too. It's like, what does this say about your confidence in your own studios? Because It's not like Microsoft doesn't have studios. They're just not necessarily producing the best-selling games. But if you have, what, 60-something billion dollars? Trillion dollars? Billion dollars? I imagine it's $1 billion, because if we're $1 trillion, the U.S. would probably be asking Microsoft to pay off their debt. So our country doesn't completely crumble. But I think it's billion.
Yeah, I think it is.
Why can't you take that and invest it into your existing studios to create... I was about to say to create a Call of Duty, but I guess like that's Halo, and they're just like, as far as I can tell, dropping the ball on that. I personally don't have an issue with any of the Halo games that have come out, but people sure do like to bitch about it.
Right.
People also bitch about Call of Duty, but they still play it.
Right.
So I don't know. I hope they pull the plug on it. That's again my selfish biased answer. I hate to give Sony that win,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly just don't. I don't care. Whatever. I'll only be mad again if Sony's like, we're gonna buy Activision.
Yes, I will lose my fucking mind. Because I'll be so happy because we won, baby. Pew, 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 pew. Ponies, rise up. Let's go. Let's ride.
It'll be really fun. PS Country. Let's ride.
Bronco Country. Let's ride.
It'll be really interesting when, a company like Amazon or Nvidia takes a run at Activision because they have the underlying business. It's not necessarily game related to make that acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of puts them on the map. I think it would help Amazon a little more than Nvidia because I think Nvidia is going to get there organically. But
Or, hear me out, right? What if Tencent? What if Tencent, unsuspecting, sneaky little Tencent swoops in and buys Activision Blizzard? I'm sure that would go under the radar and nobody would take notice.
No, that's actually a really good point. I know America likes to complain about Chinese having so much control, and yet, like, when Tencent buys somebody,
Yeah,
nothing happens.
they would go. All they would have to say is like, "No, you misunderstand. We don't make any consoles," and they'd go, "Oh, this is fine."
Yeah, they're not a monopoly because they're a giant conglomerate.
Good day to you. Good day to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you though. Like, I'm just at a point where it's just like, it's funny how 2 weeks can change something where, we felt so confident that like it's just a matter of when, not if, and then, boy, were we flipped upside down on that. And so,
I would be interested to see if Microsoft would put their money where their mouth is, and like, if this really isn't about Call of Duty, which we all know it is, if they make that concession too and say, you know what, fine, we're going to buy everything but Call of Duty. Call of Duty will break off as a separate branch of Activision Blizzard that we won't have any control over.
yeah,
And it runs as business as usual. It'd be interesting to see if that would get passed by the CMA, even though, again, Call of Duty is not necessarily the cloud problem here because most people aren't going to want to play Call of Duty on cloud
right.
near term.
Crazy again that was the excuse they came up with. Well, as always, it's just a matter of waiting around now to see what's next.
Or maybe this is it.
Maybe probably not. We'll have at least one more talk about it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. All right. Well, that's it. Shorter episode. There you have it. Hopefully, if this gets out of the news cycle, we'll have something to talk about next week. Let's see. I fucked up the upload last week somehow, or I don't know, something went funky. So maybe you listened to an episode 2 days ago and you're like, why am I still listening to this one? Or why am I listening to a new episode already? So apologies for that. If you were stuck waiting around for, I don't even remember what we talked about last week. It's where my head's at. But as always, we appreciate you listening, and yeah, leave us a rating or review wherever you do listen, and be sure to share the podcast. Best way for the podcast to grow. If you had to focus on somebody to share it with, Mike, who should it be?
Everyone on the CMA.
Everybody on the CMA. Let us do the talking for you, Microsoft. We got this. All right? We got this. Other than that, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.